Hello and welcome back. And also, welcome if this is your first time tuning in. Thank you so much for being here. It has been a lot of reflection time for me lately. And of course, this is coming up right at the end of June. Can't believe we're almost to July. So, of course, I wanted to bring in some of this reflective energy and just encourage you to think back on the past 6 months and kind of gain some clarity of what you would like to see moving forward and maybe setting some new goals and new intentions. I'm going to just share about my process and how this reflection the last couple weeks has really helped me and just amplified a lot of things for me. And yeah, it's allowed me to release a ton of things. We're going to get into it. We're going to get into all the details about my experience and really why I think it's important to, even if you're not a planner, and I'll share about this for me, but if you're not a planner, I think it's just so helpful to set some intentions, maybe set some goals, and write them down and just kind of see how they play out. So, we're going to just kind of chat, have this more of like conversational of what's been going on and what are we looking forward to. So, for me, I actually did more planning in the last 2 years than I have probably my whole life. And I never really got into New Year's resolutions only because I think I had the pressure of like what I should have as a resolution. And then it really wasn't that important to me. So I never stuck with them. And so the last couple of years, I've really kind of shifted of like, what would it feel like to be more intentional with what I'm doing, whether that's by month or by season, and just put more intention behind the things that I commit myself to. And then that also allowed me to be more intentional about like attracting things and manifesting things. So 2 years ago, for 2022, I did the planning mainly for my business, which I think was a good place to start. It allowed me to kind of drop into that masculine structure energy, which I I tend to lean more in the feminine side. Like I tend to want to flow more, and I find myself craving that structure. And so for my business, I was able, this is 2 years ago, was able to just kind of map out like what I would like to see and then big picture. And then like I zoomed back in and put some things down on paper of like, this is what it would look like to play this out or to feel this way. And so that was nice, but I didn't do much checking in throughout the year. I just kind of like left it be. And that was a good start for me. So for this year, I was like, I'm going to do this, but broader, not necessarily just business focused, because in reality, like all of the areas of my life are meshed. So I wanted to hit all of them. So I did a couple things. I got a reading done, an intuitive reading done by one of my friends, Talia, and it was so amazing. And she was able to break down different parts of the year. She does this intuitively and she uses cards as well. I'll link her information below because she's amazing. And this brought in like some major themes that I'm going to be experiencing throughout the year based off of astrology. And then I did a year ahead planning, like little masterclass that was around numerology, which was so cool. I really got into numerology last year, so I loved planning around it and looking at like the universal year, your personal year, and then going into the months. So you get a really clear visual of like what energy is available for you. And it allows you to like look at some of the things that you want to do. So what we did was basically wrote out our goals and like the things that we would do to work towards that goal or like contribute to that goal, or like what it would look like to like be that version, right? And then you plug those things back in based off of like the numerology. So, if it's like a one personal month one, like, is there new things that you're starting? Whether like for business, this would be like launching something or starting to offer something or like putting something new out, right? Um, Relationships or personal life, this might be like starting a new hobby or going to a new place and finding new friendships, like fresh start, right? And so if one of your goals is to create a new offer, then like ideally you could plan it to go in that month, and you'll have the energy supporting like this new beginning. And there's 1 through 9, right? And so it was so cool to be able to have this list of things that I wanted to do, my goals. And then it was like seamlessly, like I could plug it in here. And for me, this was so helpful because felt very structured, but at the same time, it was very intuitive. Like, oh, I'm going to write a book this month, or this month I'm going to retreat. Like it's a hermit month for me, whatever. And so this is where I'm going to go take a trip by myself. Like what are the things that you want to do? And then you're able to like plug it in based off of where that energy is most supportive, and know that there's like no right or wrong. And so I did this very intuitively. I felt like really good and confident about it, like planning out my year. It was like no pressure. And it was planning that out in a way that like was supportive for my flow. And know that like things shift and change, right? Which is why this year I'm really learning the value of like reflection and looking back of like, okay, how did this play out this last month? Because this is what I put in for intentions. This is what I in with. And so how is it playing out now? Or how did it play out? And like, how do I feel moving forward? It's been so powerful. And I will say, I got really specific on like my goals, because I had the big goals for like each area of my life. And then I thought of like specific things that like I would be doing, or like habits or beliefs. And I worked those in with the things that like I wrote down to do, like to accomplish. And I will say like it really just allowed me to like play things out. I wasn't thinking like, what did I say I wanted to do this month? Yes, I looked at my list. I kind of like looked at what was going on this month based off of the numerology, based off of my other readings. But it was a matter of seeing what I was able to respond to. I'm a manifesting generator. So I felt like having this spaciousness of here's my plans. Here's the energy I know that's available for me. Here's the energy that I'm bringing with these intentions. Let's see what shows up. And it was a very, 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 very beautiful 6 months. Like, I am so full of gratitude being able to reflect. And I have done reflections, like short reflections each month. And like each season, I do reflections, like mini reflections. But the 6 month, I've really looked back at my list of things that I wrote down, and I'm a little bit mind blown. And I want to say, like, I've probably been just as quote unquote productive, right? Like, to say I did this, like other years, I've gotten the same amount of stuff done, but to say that I have gotten things done that I was so intentional about, and it was a desire, like I feel fulfilled. Like I feel full. And I'm also like so excited for the second half of the year. So I wanted to just put that out there. Like if you're not a big planner, know that there's so many ways and like approaches that you can go about this where it's not overwhelming. You're not like committed to something that can't change, right? And that was one of my things where I'm not a big planner. I don't plan details. I like to kind of know like what I'm walking into and like what I can kind of expect that might influence how I feel. But I like to create space where I know I have time to do what I want. Like I get to choose what do I want to do right now. But I also have the structure of this is the time frame or this is the area, right? Like, or a pick from these few things. Like there's the structure that will actually keep my focus on what I desire to do. And I feel like this type of planning for me was what I needed for like the big picture, right? Because it's like if I found myself like doing just to do or like procrastinating slash unproductive. I don't necessarily like saying that, but the feeling of like, I feel like I'm doing a lot, but I'm not doing the things that I want to do. I think we all know that feeling. When I identified that, I came back to my list. I came back to what's the energy. Mind you, I love tapping into like, what do I need to know today? I do that for myself. I do that for my clients. I do that for anyone who I feel like needs the guidance and gives me permission and in their own way, right? I do this all the time, but putting intention on like, what do I want to bring into my life was a complete game changer for me. I am somebody who, and when we look at human design, you can look at your variables, and this will give you some idea of what might be resonant with you on how you want to plan. Because I could have gone, more layers, a little bit more detailed. I could have planned things out more specifically, which some people want, some people desire. And you can start specific. Is like, these are the things I know I want to do on like a regular basis, like a daily basis, weekly, monthly basis, whatever. Okay, but like what's the intention of doing those things and what is the bigger picture? So depending on your variables, generally, if you have them right facing, you're going to be more of that flow, feminine energy of like spaciousness, right? And then if they're facing more to the left, then that's more of the masculine structure. Uh, when we're looking at like schedules, routines, if you have that facing left, if you have that masculine energy, you are going to want, it's like the focus, right? Like you're going to want to have it a little bit more structured. Like, what am I doing here? And know that there's like this routine, it's just like the structure of what holds it all in. But when we lean so much into that, then it's like there's no flow. So there's less creation, there's less fluidity, which is fine for some things, right? Which is where I needed kind of like this container to say, hey, this is where we're focusing. This is what we're like structuring our planning by. And then you can kind of flow in it and do the planning in your own way. And it really opened me up to say like, okay, in the next 3 months, ideally, this is how these things are going to happen. But I don't know how or when or what it's going to look like. And so for some people that stresses them out. And for me, it was the most expansive thing. And so many things dropped in. So I want to just say the words that I had picked at the beginning of this year were, I picked two. It was support and expression. And those were very important to me because I felt like I'm in a personal year 3. So this is about communication and there's expression and like connecting. And so I felt like, this year more than ever, I need to really challenge myself with speaking up for myself, speaking my truth, because I had found myself in a habit of like not saying anything, and I could feel the assumption that that meant I agree. And I think there is value in learning how to communicate that you accept and understand, and you can also hold space for a different opinion. And you can do this with love. And I think I've swung on all sides of the pendulum here, because there's some people in my life where I'm very vocal and I can say I don't agree with that, but it's not always from a place of love. It's also from a place of fear, where I think that their opinion is either not valid or is a threat to mine, right? Very 3D like hierarchy of which opinion is better. And there's that version of me that knows like there is none, but it's like we do have those people who, when we're around, we're so grounded in the 3D that that's how it is with expression. And recognizing that and choosing that I didn't want to continue to operate in that way. I can respectfully and with love share with people that I do not agree with them. And that's what I'm really being called to do this year. And so I picked these two words with the intention of I'm going to speak my truth with love, and I'm going to feel so supported. And that has been the last 6 months, 100%. And it's the support, honestly, has come through with the things that have dropped in. Like, it's like, you need this right now, go. This is going to help you. And I know it's, for me, I don't have to, it's like intuitive. Like, it, when you follow your intuition, you might receive some support, or like something drops in and you're like, this has nothing to do with what I need. No. But it had been really about expanding my questioning, like drop the questioning. I stopped questioning my intuition, because it was like, here's some support for your health and fitness. And I'm like, but I'm asking for support with this. And they're like, here's some support with health and fitness. And at that point, I'm just like, oh, so this is where I need support, you know? And it was so beautiful to see, like, in hindsight, because in the moment, don't get me wrong, I'm very much in my human self a lot of times. And I'm just like, this isn't what I'm asking for. And there's that, where do you want to live? Where do you want to hang out in as far as perspective? Because I think the human self kind of like emotional, like stress and panic can be very eye-opening to get really clear on like, what is it that you really desire? And then there's this moment for me that it's like, okay, I'm ready to surrender. Like, I understand that this may come in a way that like does not make sense to me. So essentially at the time this is beginning of the year, I was wanting support and like strengthening some of my psychic abilities and gifts. And I knew it was going to come in. I just like, I even could almost see like how it was going to drop in, but I just like was focused on that. And I kept receiving this like very structured, like masculine support to help me with some of my health and fitness, like physical vessel things, that actually is very masculine and just a different frequency of like what I typically hang out with. Like, I don't immerse myself in this type of energy, which you're probably like, what are you talking about? But for the last 3 years, I've basically done what I wanted for working out and eating. And it was like so much flow that it was to a detriment, right? And so having this support drop in, like saying like, hey, this person is here to help you, like without a doubt, that's what was happening. And there was some like, but no, that's not really what I want right now. I want help with this side, like the spiritual gift side, you know? And it wasn't until I could fully see like, okay, let's put the structure and over here, my physical vessel, and get that going. because my physical vessel could not carry, digest what it needed to go to that next level with my spiritual gifts. Like, my human self did not understand that. But it was like the second I dropped into receiving support over here, the support for the intuitive gifts, psychic gifts, dropped in like literally the next day. And this was a huge initiation for me because, one, financial investment, like paying for support. A lot of people say that's not the support I want, right? Like, where's the gift? Where can I receive this? And they shut off so many ways to receive support because they think it's not accessible. They think, well, I can't pay for that right now. And when you're tuning into your intuitions, there's times where you're just like, I'm going to decide to do this. And that's when everything lines up. That's when things drop in. So committing to a personal coach every month for my health and fitness, that's something, honestly, like I never thought I would do. I used to do this for a living. Like, I used to help coach people and like motivate them on their health and fitness journey. And, you know, we can have these blocks where we're like, that doesn't make sense. Why do I need to hire someone? I've lost weight before. I've lost fat before. I felt really good in my body before. I can do this. But it's like removing all the layers of what you think you need and allowing that to drop in. So I invested in a personal coach, and then the next day, I think it was within a week for sure. I received a lump sum payment and was able to sign up for a course that I knew was the way that I was going to get the support for the psychic development. It was a psychic development course, and it was very aligned. Signed up for it. I had written down for the planning that I would do the psychic development course in February. Did not think about it all of January until I received this payment, the end of January. And so then I signed up for the course and did it throughout the month of February. And, if I would have thought about that in January of like, I need to sign up for this course, I need to get this course, like stressing about getting this money to sign up for this course, it's like, that probably would have never happened. I mean, at least not in February. And so it was so like, just that alone, I would say like that alone is worth planning things out. It was about, if we're talking like technically what was manifested was like $2,000. And then having that clarity of what I wanted to do and like what I needed to step into, what I was responding to. Okay, I was like setting the intentions, and then, oh look, there's something to respond to that actually like feels aligned. It feels great. So there was just these things that they were very timely, and it was like obvious to my soul, but I could not make sense of it to anyone. And when you trust yourself, you stop thinking about like, how am I going to make sense of this? How am I going to explain this to that person? And you just inform them if it affects anyone, right? So like for me, I was making these financial investments, these personal investments, and I'm just like informing Amy. I'm like, hey, I'm going to do this. And it was like, okay, clearly doesn't make sense. But there is this trust. When you trust yourself, when you know, like, this is the divine message that I need to do this right now, and I feel so supported. Look, I even got this payment. I even got this resource, this way to get there, whatever it is, right? That you feel like is a block, but it's coming in. There's this conviction. And then when you go communicate that, it's like they feel your conviction. They feel like this is your truth. And this was really how I started tapping into expressing myself. I'm like, if I'm so confident that when I set these intentions that I'm going to be divinely supported and I'm going to receive the messages, the guidance, the support when it drops in, then I can communicate my needs. I can communicate what I'm doing next. It's a whole different way of communicating when you have this like pure intention and like clarity of intention. So I'm just going to share some of the other things that played out in the first 6 months that I have written down. And some of the things I wrote down for later in the year, but have already happened. Because depending on the numerology and like if your personal months are different than the universal months, like you're tapping into lots of different energy. So it's very magical. I'll explain some of that in a little bit. But okay, I mentioned the psychic development course. I wanted to start working with the animal council, which it's a thing. And I have not shared much about that or talked about that, but I have to include that because it was very intentional to work with the animal council, and more to come on that. I had set a goal to be more intentional with alone time and actually being alone. So I'm a 2/4. I'm also a Virgo, which if you didn't know, the Virgo card in astrology, or the Virgo card in tarot, is the Hermit. And yeah, and I'm a 2/4, which the second line is about the retreat and the wisdom of solitude. And so I will tell you, like, a lot of my life, I did not, a lot of my adulthood, I did not immerse myself in any alone time. And then when I was alone, I was consuming. And so this intention was really about having alone time where I am just being, and whether that's, I could be doing something, but not consuming. And that has been something that it was very intentional, but the opportunities for this time drop into my lap. And now it's just second nature. I create these spaces when I need them, but they also become available to me. Like if I'm going, and I recognize like, oh, wait, this is an opportunity to be alone, then I see that as like a gift. Like, okay, you need this moment. And that's where I receive a lot of my messages. That's where I get a lot of clarity. I do energy clearing. And that goes along with something else where I wanted to be really intentional with daily energy work, which also goes back to developing more of my psychic gifts. So lots of this is connected, but the support and like the ways that it dropped in, it was divine. So yeah, health and fitness routine revamped with structure. So this was like, I want to lose body fat. My vessel, I will say, is just dense. Lots of clearing. That's another reason why I want to do the daily energy work. I have been doing it, but just I'm broadening it and being, I shouldn't say broadening it. It's more intentional. Like it's like a lot of cord cutting. And so the health and fitness routine was really to support that. And that's where the divine, like masculine structure came in like hot, like this is what you need. And it did not make sense, but it's perfect. I'm still working with my coach and she's amazing. I actually can refer you guys, so I'll link her information below too. My friend Liza, she's great. Really helping physical vessel. And that helps like with emotions and mental processing and everything. I will tell you, I'm like a new person. Yep. And then the self-expression, befriend money. This is just a thing that I practice daily, because I'm at that point where I still find lingering thoughts and beliefs and habits that like, I'm like, that's not right. That's not my truth anymore. And it's a work in progress, but this is something that like I had written down for like a month, and said, this is when I want to really focus on this and heal some of these wounds around money. But what I've learned is it's been going on the last 6 months, like with everything, like, the support coming in and just knowing that this is the support and deciding and allowing that money to come in. My nervous system was like, holy hell, like, what are we doing? I'll tell you that. And so it's been a work in progress. It's going to continue, but yeah, lots of things. Network and book speaking events. I've been doing speaking events. So this was something with like my business. I wanted to be more intentional about calling in more like speaking and writing work and less coaching per se. I always see myself having that connection with certain people and offering like coaching and mentoring, but I want to spend majority of my time sharing my expression. And what better year to do that in a 3 year. So personal year 3 for me. So I wanted to share all of this because I would not have recognized that I've been doing all of this in the last 6 months if I didn't, one, write that stuff down at the beginning of the year, and two, taking the time to reflect. And I will say there was 1 month, I think it was April. It did not go how like I would have said or thought it would go based off of the energy, based off of my intentions. And at one point I was really low. It was just a lower month. And I was really just like, I need something to grasp onto. And, I was looking at what I had written down, what was coming up, and like, what was the energy that like had just happened before, like March. And there was just this understanding that like, it doesn't always play out like how we think it could, because one, there's so many potentials. And then also like, I was trying to remember what my April month was. 5, 4, 3. It was a 2 month. Yeah. So I guess that's a collective too. But I think it was so 5. I think I'm 2 ahead. I don't know. Trying to process this right now. But in April, I remember having like the thoughts like this doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel as good as the other months. And now I'm really curious because I'm questioning my backwards math skills. But I remember this moment of surrender of like I fully like to feel so supported in the first 3 months. And then I looked at my intuitive reading with Talia, and I think April was kind of like a challenging internal month. And I just had this moment of surrender. Like, I know I'm so supported. So whatever is coming up this month, like it is meant to, it's divine, of course. And looking at like, okay, well, what do I have coming up? So April was a personal 7, of course. So that's why. And that's probably what I had like in reflection. So that was another reason why I was so thankful to just have this awareness of like, if things feel a little bit resistant or like uncomfortable, what is the energy and like, what is it calling you to look at? So it was a personal 7. And I remember why I was kind of like, what's happening? Because I actually felt the desire to be more social, to do the things. And we did have things going on that month. And there was part of me that was like, is this right? Because this isn't like what's there. And it's like, that's when I really was like, okay, this is where I don't need all the details. I don't need to know like what's playing out. And then in reflection of April, so moving on to May, it was a 5 month. No, why am I getting so confused? It was a collective 3 months and a personal 8 month for me. And I really felt that there was like this shift of like energy of like, okay, I did what I needed to do to kind of get through April. And it was really like all these energies playing out together. I had to hermit in my own way. And the hermit for me was having these feelings, having this kind of like, is this right? Like, is this the questioning, right? And it played out kind of intertwined, there we go, with being social and communicating and doing these different things like in partnership, because it was also a collective 2 month. So having the different energies available can sometimes make it seem like this isn't what's supposed to be happening, like what I intend to happen. But in reflection, it's actually playing out exactly how it needs to. Because then moving into the next month, I really felt this shift of like, okay, now I'm feeling abundant. Like I feel like 8 is abundance. And there's this like expansion. And it's like I had to contract in April in the 7 month to really feel that expansion. And it's like, okay, big picture, let's surrender to this. So that was the other thing for me, is like all this planning is great, but like I can really tell when I get too caught up in the details. And you might be like the opposite, but we really just like start to identify where you're getting too caught up because like you're thinking about it too much and you're like thinking like something's not going as planned when it really is. And if something really is not resonant, that's when you can come back to, okay, what are my goals and intentions? So, and pivot, like just, what do you need to shift right now? So I really wanted to bring all this up because if you didn't do planning in the beginning of the year, like that's fine. But this mid-year check-in, I think, is so valuable because you can do this. You can set intentions for the rest of the year. You can choose a word for the rest of the year. And you can set goals, right? And if you look at your variables and you look at the bottom right variable, this is about having either like a focused or peripheral mind. And you might naturally feel into this, but if you're like, I don't like planning, you might not be thinking about planning in the way that best serves you. So if that arrow's facing right, the bottom right arrow, if it's facing right, then you're really going to thrive on thinking about the big picture. And if it's facing left, you're probably going to thrive on thinking about details. So for me, this is why planning, the traditional sense of let's plan out our week or month or year, like didn't ever resonate with me because I was trying to be more detailed than I wanted to be. I could be as detailed, like I could get into the details, but then a part of me knows that this is just one choice that it doesn't really matter to me. But I had to learn that because not many people go to the big picture first and then come back to, okay, well, what are the things we're going to do to like feel that, to get into that? And that's really the manifestation. And some people want to look at the details first. So like, which one are you doing? Which one are you committing to? And know that there's going to be a balance, right? Like, so there is value in me thinking about like, well, what are the things that I'm going to do? Like, what are the details? And are they resonant with the big picture? We have to find that resonance between the big picture and the everyday. And that's how you start manifesting. That's when things really start getting attracted to you because you have this intention of this vision, right? You have this vision that you have, big picture. And then there's the intentions that you carry and hold every day that are the same frequency of that big picture. So you're calling things in that are gravitating that big picture to you. So I encourage you to do some reflection and to just do some planning based off of what feels good to you. And I'll say you probably need to push yourself out of your comfort zone a little bit. So if you aren't somebody who's like followed through with reflection or like the things you want to accomplish, how have you been planning? And how can you incorporate more of like the other side of that? So let's say you have always been the dreamer and you've always been dreaming about the big picture, but there's never really any follow through. Okay, well, you got to start looking at the details. What are you doing to support that? What are you doing that doesn't support that? Giving yourself credit. This is huge. Like, I wouldn't have known all this stuff, right? If I hadn't wrote it down and reflected and journaled. Leaving room for spaciousness. They're like, we don't have to plan everything. We don't even have to know exactly what we want. And the more we can tap into like feelings, the senses, and then worry about getting clear on the details. If you're having a hard time of like, what do I even want? What has come up for you in the last 6 months that's calling your attention? Is there anything that's calling to be shifted? And this is where you can start to set some intentions or goals. Maybe you'll add to your goals that you started in the new year, or maybe you have clarity around some of your goals on what you want it to feel like, what you want it, who you want it to involve, Okay, we're gonna get in to wrap this up, just to give some energy for the rest of the year, and then we're gonna pull some cards. I have to get a drink. I will say, if you're watching on YouTube, you can see that I'm 100% decked out in Quartz Co. I have the sweatshirt, a mug, and a necklace on. I fully support any quartz addictions. Okay. The second half of the year, I feel like we're going down the slide. Like, it's just like, we kind of been climbing. There's been this like momentum buildup. And now, numerology wise, I was looking at this because this is fun for me to think like, what numbers am I working with? And for the rest of the year, I am working with every number, because my personal months are different than they're 5 away from the universal months. So yeah, the rest of the year, July through December, we go 5 through 1. So 5 through 9, and then 9 after 1. So December is a 1 month. And so, and I think for me personally, July, yeah, I'm going 1 through 6. So I'm hitting all the numbers through the rest of the year. You might too. You can look at your numerology. I will say my number one go-to person for numerology is Caitlin Carehart, and I'll link her below because her Instagram alone has so much. So if you don't know how to figure out like your personal year cycle and all that, you can find it on her Instagram. And she has really good resources on her website. But just to think about this, of July is a 5 month, and this is change. And then yeah, it goes 6, 7, 8, 9, 1. So we're going through like this change where things are really gonna like, I think we're already feeling this, where it's just like, oh, what we've been doing before is not working. And so I think July is really this opportunity for us to settle into the things that we want to change. Like finding that foundation of that groundedness of, this is what I'm changing, and because I'm prepared for it and I have this clarity of what I want to change, I'm ready to go. And then, moving into the 6, 7, 8, it's really this like the things we change, and now we're like integrating that in our home and life, in our relationships. And it's like, okay, we had these things that we know we need to change, and how is this affecting our relationships? And then we are going to go into a 7-month, which we're also in a 7-year. So this is going to be deep reflection, spiritual reflection. Like, what is the bigger purpose? This is deep reflection. That's September. And then 8 and 9, it's like that abundance and expansion. 9 is that endings and closings, celebration. So November, which I think is great for just like gratitude, like having that gratitude and celebrating, like these are the things that have completed and we're ending. And then finishing the year with a 1 month. So knowing this, knowing what you have experienced the last 6 months, I encourage you to be really honest with yourself on what you would like to see change. Like, you are like, the support is unreal. I wish like I could share like what I feel and what I see when I am needing support. I mean, I see it all the time, but in those moments where you're like, your human self is desperate and you're like, please. And then it just, the clarity or the ease or the support, like sometimes the support's already there, but like we just can't see it because we're in the thick of it. And the fears and emotions are overwhelming at times. And I have lifted that veil quite a bit to where I don't have to be in desperation to see how supported I am. It is still a choice to receive the support, but it's very beautiful. And you don't have to get into numerology to feel supported. That I just think it's so much fun to kind of like see the context and how it really plays out. Like, I just dare you to like look into it and then just kind of reflect. Try it for 1 month. Okay, 2 months. Like, get clear on like what the energy is, and then set some intentions and see what plays out. And then tell me about it. Okay. But yeah, just be really more intentional. I feel like I've said that every podcast episode in the last 6. So update, I am adding a word. I think I'm adding it. I don't think I'm like getting rid of any words, but I'm adding the word compassion to my words of the year, because with expression, I've really experienced lots of forms of expression, and I want to invite in more compassion through my expression. And this is really about opening up to compassion for myself, which will then lead to others. And my beloved guide, Kuan Yin, has been around me so much lately. Ascended Master, if you're familiar with Buddhism or just like spiritual, if you haven't heard of Kuan Yin, please look her up. She's great support for all of us right now. But she's definitely on this compassion kick with me, and I love that because that's what I need. So, okay, I wanted to pull some cards to wrap this up and have some insight. I have 2 different decks that I was about to shuffle together. Give you a little bit of just a message going forward for the end of the year. The rest of the year. I feel like it's gonna fly by, honestly. Okay. I have pulled the Giraffe, Aspire to Higher Knowledge and Wisdom, and the Guinea Pig, Do Your Part to Illuminate the Universe. Okay. Oh, pretty. Very different energies here, right? There's like this grounded, like the Giraffe I feel is more grounded and like, this is what I know, this is my truth, this is the wisdom, this is from reflection and retreat. And the giraffe, I think, is like, I mean, we know is the tall animal. They are able to see things. There's like this wisdom. There's like this role model. I'm thinking like sixth line wisdom. We see this in human design where like there's just like we can oversee things. So there's this different understanding, and we bring that wisdom into the way that we move, the way that we are, the way that we be, talk, all that. And the guinea pig is do your part to illuminate the universe. This is about being so grounded in what you know is true, like that wisdom, that inner wisdom. And of course, I have these cards. The expression, being able to be that, right? Take what you know, the inner knowings, the wisdom that you gain from your experiences, from your interactions and your relationships, and transmute that, alchemize that to be able to express yourself. And this is what's really going to be the light. This is how you bring the light. It's by taking your experiences, processing them, alchemizing that wisdom, so you're able to share what your truth is in a loving way. Very like head and root going on. We got the crown and the root just like buzzing here. Okay. Archangel Mary and Jophiel. Okay, the other two cards I picked is there's strength in doing nothing. Wait, this is again in a reflection. This 7th, September. We're gonna mark our words now. We're gonna have an episode on reflection in September, because there's like this, we're seeing where we've resisted the reflection before, where, oh, it didn't serve us to not pay attention there. And so we're in these same routines, and it's so obvious to us now that we're in it again. We're like, wait, this isn't, no, I already know this. But it's like, we're not taking the time to reflect. There's like still some resistance on the things that we're avoiding, or the things that we're just like thinking, we're not ready yet. And they're saying, no, like you got to slow down and reflect. Use the wisdom. Like you're avoiding the wisdom. You're not accepting all the support by not reflecting. So lots of reflection going to come up. It's not wait until September. It is like start reflecting now. Oh my gosh. We have reflection, wisdom, like wisdom and reflection, right? And express yourself creatively. Start something new. What creative pursuit do you feel drawn to? We are needing different ways to express ourselves. As you start to be honest with yourself, as the truths are revealed through reflection, through that retreat of being honest, of getting really clear on like, hey, why am I doing this anymore? Why did I start doing this? I'm going to choose to stop, or I'm going to shift this. What are you changing, right? We have this change, this momentum to say, I'm done. I'm changing it. This groundedness of knowing of what is no longer for me is requiring you to express things differently. And what this is like looking like is like clear expression. So I have this app right now. It's called Elevate, and it's to help you communicate. And like I know, right? Because I'm in a 3-year, and of course I have this app. But it's one of the exercises is about being direct and like cutting out the fluff, and just like say what you mean to the point. And that's what we're being called to do. And they're saying love doesn't need the fluff. Like love is not fluffy. It could feel that way, like if that's what is desired, right? But love doesn't beat around the bush. Love doesn't hide the truth. Love doesn't avoid the truth. And as you're opening up to these deep truths that you're like, I can no longer like commit to these things because like I see so clearly that this is no longer aligned. There's also this part of you that it's like, I can't lie to myself or to anyone else. So I need to express this. And this can come through in many ways. It doesn't have to be, hey, I have to sit down and have a conversation with you. Opening up to new ways of expression comes through compassion, understanding, and acceptance of others and where they're at. So we're going to be called to share these truths, share what we're changing, right? Share how this new version of us is going to affect our relationships, our, like whatever we're intertwined with. And how this truth that's coming out is shifting the way that you want to express, is shifting the way that you want to relate. And there's this sense of, what do I have to do? What do I have to do? And it's like, release that. It's not about what do you have to do. It's about how can you express yourself? How can you be in that energy that you say you now are, right? How can you just exude your desires and what it is that you would like to bring to the world? This is like do your part to illuminate the universe. This is not stressing about who do I need to talk to? What do I need to do? What are they going to say? How are they going to respond to this? What are they going to think of this? No, that's not what we're doing. When the truths are illuminated, there's going to be this grounded sense of, this is what comes next. And there may be those fears of, I need to communicate this in this way. I need to say it to this person in this way because this is how they're going to respond, and etc. And it's like, work through that and trust that the confidence and the love that you hold based off of identifying that truth is going to help you navigate this new way of expressing. It's going to come through in a different way. Communicating you don't want to do something with the fear of, I don't know what they're going to say, or they're going to be mad when I tell them that I don't want to do this, is different than communicating that and you are convicted that this, whatever it is not for you, and so you do not want to do it. That's received very differently, right? It's received differently than us saying, like, I don't want to go because I don't have the money. I don't want to go, whatever. Or I am choosing not to go. I will tell you, a lot of my conversations have changed when I stopped explaining myself. And that's from a place of self-worth and love, not fear or sneakiness. So, okay, I think we're going to wrap up there. These are our 4 cards again. If you're watching on YouTube, you get to see the beauties. Let's see. Here we go. Okay, yeah, I think we're good. We'll wrap up. And if you enjoyed this episode, please let us know. Feel free to leave a review, which I absolutely love reading. And you can share about it on social media as well and tag us at the Intuition Playground. And happy July. We're here in July. Okay. I hope you all have a lovely rest of your day, and I will talk to you next time on the Intuition Playground.